Students, in this lecture we are going to study about different components of IC engine. I am Dr. C.P. SIGAR, working as Associate Professor in Agricultural Engineering in BBD Government College, Chivanpura. Components of IC engine. The first important component of IC engine is the cylinder. Combustion of fuel or air-fuel mixture takes place in it. It can withstand high temperature of around 2500 degrees centigrade and pressure of 160 kg force per centimeter square. It is made of cast iron, alloy steel or aluminium. The second important component is the cylinder head. It is one piece casting bolted to the top of cylinder and may contain inlet and exhaust valves, spark plug or injector. Copper gaskets are provided between cylinder head and cylinder block to make gas tight joints. For cooling, cylinder head may have fins or internal water passages made of same material as that of cylinder block. The next components of IC engine are the cylinder block and crankcase. These are main structural components of engine. Cylinder block houses cylinders, cooling passages and valve mechanisms. Crankcase may be integral part of the cylinder block or may be bolted separately. It provides support to the crankshaft, dynamo, flywheel and clutch. It also houses water pump, lubricating pump, distributor and other things. Lubricating oil is filled in crankcase in compression ignition engines. In this picture you can view the two views of a cylinder head. The above one is the bottom view and the lower one gives you the top view of the cylinder head. This is the cross-sectional view of cylinder head. In this picture you can see from top to bottom. First is the can, second is the tappets, the valve stem and the springs around the valve stems. This is the picture of engine block. Both the views are included, top view and bottom view. This picture gives you the internal view of engine block. When engine is completely assembled, it looks like this. This is the external view. These are the pictures of gaskets used in the engine to seal the cylinder head and the cylinder block. This is the engine block with the cylinder. The next component of an engine is piston. This component transmits force of explosion to the connecting rod. It is made of cast iron, aluminium alloy having some silicon which gives added strength. Next component is connecting rod. It transmits power from engine piston to the crankshaft. It is made of forged steel in form of I section. Next component is the gudgeon pin. It connects small end of the connecting rod with piston. It is hollow and made of steel. It is of three types: full floating, in which pin is free in both piston and connecting rod. Second type is a semi-floating, which is fixed in connecting rod and free in piston. The third type is the stationary. It is fixed in piston and free in connecting rod. Piston rings. These are fitted in the grooves provided in the piston. They protect the piston as they wear out before the piston wears and these can be replaced easily with nominal cost. Piston rings are of two types. First is the compression control rings and the second is oil control rings. Compression rings seal the gases in combustion chamber, whereas holes present in oil control rings scrape away excessive oil from cylinder wall. Piston rings are made of alloy iron castings. Total number of piston rings on a piston may be from 3 to 7. The piston ring gap is 1 mm per 200 mm diameter of piston. In this picture you can view the two types of piston rings. The top two rings are the compression control rings, whereas the third or the ring at the bottom is the oil control ring. The oil control ring can be differentiated from compression control ring in such a way that it has holes in it to scrape away excessive oil from the cylinder walls. The left hand side picture is of piston with the connecting rod. In this you can see the piston and the different parts of the piston. The topmost part of the piston is called crown. Then beneath the crown are the rings. On the top are the compression ring, and at the bottom is the oil control ring. Then there is gudgeon pin to which connecting rod is attached, and the bottom of the piston is known as skirt. You can see the connecting rod, and the bottom end of the connecting rod is known as the big end. On the right side you can see the picture of piston, the top view of a piston. This is an exploded view of piston and connecting rod. This again is a cross-sectional view of piston, in which you can notice the different parts of a piston. This is a working model of a piston inside a cylinder. You can have an idea how the valves operate when the piston is moving inside the cylinder. The next components of an IC engine are the manifolds attached to inlet and exhaust ports in the cylinder head. The induction or the inlet manifold provides passage for flow of air and fuel in cylinder through inlet port, whereas exhaust manifold provides passage for outflow of burnt gases from cylinder through the exhaust port. The next important component of engine is the crankshaft. Crankshaft converts reciprocating movement of piston into rotary motion. It is subjected to bending as well as twisting. Crankshaft is supported on main bearings at both ends. The main parts of crankshaft are the journals, crank pin, and webs or cranks. Journals rotate in main bearings and support crankshaft. Crank pin rotates in big end bearing of connecting rod. Webs or cranks act as balance weights. On the rear end of crankshaft, a flywheel is present. Crankshaft is made of forging. The crankshaft is made by forging from carbon steel or nickel chromium steel. This is the internal view of an IC engine, where you can see piston attached to a crankshaft. At the bottom you can see the working of the piston, the connecting rod and the crankshaft together. This picture gives a clearer view of how the piston, connecting rod and crankshaft work inside an engine block. This picture tells us about the powertrain in an engine. When the fuel is burnt inside the cylinder, the explosion moves the piston, and the piston in turn pushes the connecting rod, which in turn rotates the crankshaft, and from crankshaft the power is transferred to the powertrain of the vehicle, or the power is transferred to the source of work. Attached to the crankshaft there is a flywheel. Next component is the camshaft. Camshaft operates the inlet and exhaust valves according to valve timing. All engine accessories like engine fuel pump, cooling water pump, ignition system, dynamo, etc. are operated by camshaft. In 4-stroke engines, camshaft operates at half the speed of crankshaft. Camshaft obtains power from crankshaft with the help of timing gears. The camshaft is made of forged steel or of cast iron. In this picture you can see the camshaft and cams present on the camshaft, which in turn operate the valves. This picture shows how camshaft, push rod and valve are interconnected to each other. The next component is the valve. In 4-stroke IC engine, opening and closing of cylinder to exhaust and inlet manifold is done by exhaust and inlet valves respectively. Poppet valves are used in most IC engines. The valve is usually a flat disc of metal with a long rod known as the valve stem out one end. The stem is used to push down on the valve and open it, with a spring generally used to close it when the stem is not being pushed on. The exhaust valve is made of silichrome steel or high-speed steel. The inlet valve is made of nickel or nickel chrome. Face of valve is ground to make an angle of 45 degree. Now we shall learn about the valve mechanism. Valves are open due to rotation of camshaft. Closing of valves is caused by springs. In 4-stroke engine, inlet valve and exhaust valve open once in 4 strokes or once in 2 revolutions of crankshaft. Due to the rotation of camshaft, the cam lifts a push rod. The push rod in turn lifts one end of a rocker. Due to this, the other arm presses the valve stem and the valve is opened. When the rocker arm returns to its original position, the spring present on the valve stem causes the valve to close. Here This is a picture showing the connection between cam, the push rod, the rocker arm and the valve. This again gives you a view of the valve mechanism. Here you can see when the cam rotates due to the rotation of the camshaft, it pushes the tappet, which in turn pushes the push rod, and that in turn operates the rocker arm. The rocker arm pushes the stem of the valve downwards to open it. When the camshaft keeps on rotating, the valve again closes due to the action of springs present on the valve stem.